Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about Hachi and Araine Awake, which is the first book in the trilogy. I'm probably just going to kind of, I have the outline of the book in front of me, so I'm just going to kind of talk through what I was thinking about each of the parts. I will be doing spoilers. Um, so here is your official spoiler warning. If you continue beyond this part, you have been warned. I'm just going to talk about things and it's going to spoil probably not only this book, but I could reference stuff that comes up later. So, again, there's about 10 seconds of warning you for spoilers here. So, okay. So, book one in the Dream series, my last recording, I had, mentioned kind of the idea of dreams and the whole Dream series was kind of the theme of things that I wanted to do. And, once I had actually started, writing everything, it kind of took me about a year to actually get the first book together. And then, and that was with kind of, taking some inspiration from some of the fan fiction that I'd already written and then, rewriting a lot of that. And then also trying to map it out with the ideas and stuff that I had. I'd mentioned previously how, my original concepts had been around kind of matching up, like angels with demons as far as how, Hachi and Araine would be interacted. And there was one time where I was actually kind of thinking about, Araine being like the angel Uriel and Hachi being like the embodiment of Ashmedai. But that didn't really pan out. Like as I started writing things and started kind of getting deeper into the story that I was telling, some of those ideas and concepts are there. Hachi can be a lot more bloodthirsty than Araine is. But again, it's quite different, right? And with that, with the whole Sarah thing as well. I remember a story with Ashmedai, who was in love with Sarah, and in the Book of Enoch, there's a lot of information about angels falling in love, a lot of the Watchers falling in love with humans and stuff like that. Even in your other kind of Abrahamic faith text, there's stories of angels going to like Sodom, and they should probably be scared of the angels who are there to kind of judge the town, but instead they're just overwhelmed with lust for them. And so I do have some of that throughout the books in the sense of, when people see Hachi, whether they're male or female, there is either a strong attraction to her, or there is a strong fear, towards her. And that varies from person to person. But that all said, so kind of going back on track here. Part one, lucid. When we start off, Hachi's waking up out of cryo sleep. Her memories are kind of fuzzy. And so, this part is called lucid, right? And a lucid dream is when you're dreaming, but you're aware that you're kind of dreaming still. And I wanted things to be happening, and the story being driven, but I wanted both the reader, to kind of understand and experience things through Hachi, where, she's not really sure of what the hell's going on. There's things are happening. She's reacting, as appropriately in her situation. But, things are, she has no idea what is going on. She doesn't know why she's there. She knows who she is. There's, basic things that she's remembered, like she knows how, to activate certain things. She knows, remembers how to fire a gun or, use a knife, but like, there's her own memories of, her past and why she's here are not there. Yeah, at least not all of them. There's as she tries to kind of struggle with that. Slowly things start coming back, and so from there, it's really I wanted a kind of an action sequence to start the tone of the book. I didn't want to. I mean, I don't want to say I didn't want to hold back, but I mean, I wanted it to kind of know, like, if you're reading this, like, there's going to be some shit happening. Like this isn't a PG-13 book. This is going to be an R-rated book, if that makes sense. So then we go on, right? So she's turns to news feeds. We have her meeting Sarah, and from Sarah's point of view, there is a strong attraction to Hachi immediately. From Hachi's point of view, she's very confused by Sarah's advancements. One, she just doesn't have any frame of reference for the way Sarah is acting towards her, and two, she's more concerned with other things going on at this time, and everything that's happening. So from there, we kind of have the initial introduce the characters, at least these three characters. We also introduce the world. There's a lot of talking about, there's conversations that Hachi has with Sarah that kind of paint pictures of the world a little bit, or I try to have them paint pictures of the world. I don't spell everything out at this point because, again, I still want people to be in that lucid state where they're only getting fed a little bit, enough to drive the story and go on, but not enough where you are fully aware of everything that's happening or going on. And this is more of, just kind of progressing as you begin to wake up. And then, of course, that section ends with a little bit of romance. We had the treasure hunt. We had a successful treasure hunt. We have, some romance that kind of grows there and starts to blossom. And then that kind of cuts off with, our first introduction of Luna Light, which I admit it can be a little jarring, but it was, really designed to kind of showcase, what was happening in the world, that other people, like, that this character's actions were impacting the world and or the universe rather, and this is how people were going to start seeing or hearing about things, because there's a lot of people that Hachi's not going to meet, Luna Light being one of them. She goes and does her things, she does her adventures, she does her whatever she's doing. The world is going to react to these things, and so Luna Light is going to be that insight into how people are viewing it, and kind of go from there. The dream portion is really kind of where we end up meeting Lamont and Mira. We also get a little bit more into like the happy state of things, right? So we started to wake up, but then we kind of fell back into a dream state, and in this dream state, like, things are happy, things are good, right? Like like this is a pleasant dream. There's like all the good things that could happen are starting to happen. She's getting her memories back. She's reunited with a long lost lover. She's still has this new companion with her, who's really open to everything that's going on. And then there's a little bit of this whole, like maybe there's a virus, maybe there's something wrong, with some of the things we've been doing. But for the most part, everything is happy. I also decided to stick the prologue here. Most, like, every chapter is typically from Hachi's perspective, with the exception of chapters that are by another person. So every chapter is basically the last thing Hachi says in the chapter is the title. I did that mostly because I couldn't think of good titles for my chapters. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to make the titles the last thing that she says, in every single chapter. And so that's what I did. And that was just easy, for me to do. When it comes to the other characters, since they only typically show up once in a book, it's just naming their name for the chapter title. The Hello Hachi is always going to be a little different. That's typically, it could be from her viewpoint. There were ones where I think I had written them from another viewpoint, but for the most part, I wanted to include a Hello Hachi in each book. Just to kind of change the pace, make people kind of think like, oh, what's going to happen here? Because this is something different. That said, the first book does have the prologue in the very, very middle of the book. And that prologue really serves to kind of give a larger picture of basically where Hachi and Araine come from, what the Tau system is, what Tau-born are. It's pretty on the nose, I think. It's a different take on the whole Garden of Eden type of story, right? Where typically a Garden of Eden, you have, it's about, mankind disobeying and consequences. Whereas, what if, what my thought was like, well, what if actually like, you give creatures free will that you created, and what if you actually rewarded them for using that creativity and that curiosity, right? And so that's basically the point of the prologue. And it also sets a tone where these are creatures who are not so much, in a way they are supernatural, given like space magic shit and whatnot. But, they do have very strong Abrahamic faith, like angelic and demonic undertones to them. So, so basically we started with this, waking kind of, lucid introduction, and then we fall back into this happy dream, and then awake. I think awake kicks off with, really a rude awakening. It's not fun to be taken out of a dream that you're enjoying. And then you realize, oh, my alarm clock's going off. I'm 15 minutes late. I got to get ready for work, or I got to do a thing, or whatever the fuck's going on. And so it is a very rude awakening. But that kicks off the tone. Sarah's death kicks off the awake portion, right? And with that, we also start to see Hachi's reaction, right? Like she immediately goes from 0 to 100 on her just craving and death and destruction at times. And this is, and this is something that, we will kind of see continue to be later on. And Araine is there with her and doing the same deeds. I did want her to be a little bit more cautious about stuff, trying to sometimes restrain Hachi, but at the same time, like, she's not really going to stop her from, doing what she feels she needs to do. And you see a little bit more of that with the aftermath, right? Like, so, we have this thing from Luna Light, which kind of gives a little spoiler about the old woman, and kind of foreshadows that she may come back. And then, we get into Araine's state of mind, and then, so you wanted this, right? So like she goes, she's just kind of aimless at this point, right? Like she just lost this woman that she was starting to really care for. She, goes on a killing spree. She's not really feeling any better. She's got her memories back now that she's finding out that it was actually Lamont who was responsible for the death of the other Tau-born, because, he thought she was dead. And so she just doesn't really know what to do, and she doesn't have any clear direction. And so she just kind of is like, she just kind of zones out, for, lack of a better term. And so because of that, she starts heading to Planet 9, where she's introduced to this character, Amrita. And And then I also threw in so Kumo's chapter. I threw in there just because honestly I wanted to make a JavaScript kind of joke kind of thing. It was just one of those things where I like doing silly nerdy references to things when I can. So having a very short chapter where it's from the perspective of the AI. I wanted to include that. And also it lets the users kind of know that Kumo isn't like an AI that's like super sentient or anything like that. There's mention, how Hachi refers to Kumo as, like this is an AI that really just does what I tell it to do. And yes, it can do all these amazing things. But it's not necessarily something that would take over the world or the universe. Unless you asked it to nicely, I guess. So there's that. And then obviously the Amrita character, we see that there is actually some connection with the founders and who and what the founders are. We've kind of known from the prologue that, the founders are basically like, for lack of a better term, they are the creators, right? They are the founders of life within the universe. They are responsible for cultivating life. And then they just kind of sit back and watch and hope that one day their creations find their way back to them. So with that, and Rita, who we don't really know how or why at this point, is there, but unlocks, one of Hachi's repressed powers. So, Hachi had gotten her memory back, but she didn't really have any of her supernatural powers outside of the shimmering, which is just kind of her, part of her regressing to a natural state. But she unlocks the ability to kind of see when she hears someone speak, she not only can tell if they're lying or not, but more importantly, she gets like a flash of their entire life in her mind. And so this is something that she'll not be able to really turn off. But it's all happens incredibly quickly. So her mental capacity for handling this is just incredible. But that idea is kind of the setup for, we see a demonstration of this through the, So No Prison and do that chapter about the, the whole pirate hunting thing. And so, you can see that this is going to be something that's going to be used later on and kind of, going from there. So from here, and then of course, we end on a cliffhanger. So there is the idea of, the founders sent the Tauborn over to Earth to kind of, guide mankind. And then they were supposed to bring, some of them back with them, and kind of, eliminate chaos from the realm and then kind of bring back the good ones back to Tau. Obviously none of that went according to plan. There was the other Tauborn, like Micah, Dawn, and Gabriel, and again, names that are very on the nose, for what they are, what they represent, who felt a certain way and wanted to do, different things. And so, the question is, what is the repercussion going to be for Lamont, by the founders, right? And so we end on that, yes, you do, type of thing, as far as, yes, you do have a lot of explaining to do and tell me why. So, this kind of concludes my rambling for the, book one. I'll be doing another one on book 2 here. And then of course on book 3, shortly. So, thanks for, listening. And if you're curious, if you haven't already, the books are available on Amazon, Kindle. If you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can get them for free. If you are an Amazon Prime member, they might show up sometime in November, December for you. It's not a guaranteed position though, but I do have them submitted for a rotation in that. Um, that said, otherwise, it's $5 for each book, so $15 for the whole trilogy. There will be a paperback version coming out December 8th. That might get pushed up a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll chat at you in the next one.